All prisoners must be fed, even the destroyer. The Eridians devised of a feeding slot that calls wayward souls to open it every 200 years. A cruel surprise for those that open this false vault. But in exchange, the small morsel will keep the destroyer sedate over the eons. In any case, the victims will not be in pain for long. I do not know how the Eridians became aware of the destroyer. They never spoke of a time before it. But I suspect that they went searching for it, or something like it, and for their curiosity, they were rewarded with doom. What is the destroyer? It is a mouth with endless appetite. It is hate that never cools. It is the long shadow cast by our universe against the moldering sun of time. It will never truly be contained, merely made to wait until its chains slip, or are slipped for it. We once lived side by side with the Eridians, though already the forgetting has begun. There was no fear of one another, only awe on one side, and a kind of sadness on the other. They never said if they knew their fate before it fell, but they also never said any of us had a choice. It was here that I killed them, 1 billion lives to power a machine. Should it comfort me that they will thrum in its heart forever? Perhaps oblivion would have been kinder. It would have been for me, at least. I may be the last to ever learn the Eridian language from one of their own. I have so many questions I should have asked them while I had the chance. Like why the Eridian term for homeworld also means first landing. The Eridians were neither gods nor demons. They were simply a people whose abilities outpaced their needs. So, in their curiosity, broke down walls that should have stayed up. They were, perhaps, fated to be erased at their own behest, like the forest that grows so that it may burn. I have seen guardians change their own bodies, lengthening their blades or strengthening their armor as they require. I wonder how far they might change themselves now, in the absence of their makers. Since the guardians are not bound to individual bodies, it is nearly impossible to know how many the Eridians might have made. An uncountable army, hidden below the surfaces of 100 worlds. We are fortunate that they rarely stray far from their wards. The soul of a guardian is little more than data to be transferred from one shell to another. I have never seen where they reside, if not in their physical bodies, and I suspect I never will. A soldier who cannot be killed in their sleep is a dangerous one. I suspect that some guardians are keener than others. I have seen them acting of their own accord and even heard them speak. What spark do they have that the others lack? Was it freely given or stolen like the fire of the gods? What will happen, I wonder, when all the vaults are empty and all the terrors dead? Will the guardians still stand their vigil? Will they find a greater purpose? And what is stopping them from finding it now? The Eridians left their mark on countless worlds, but few of their creations are as uncanny as the guardians. They are quasi-life, a half-truth, driven by instructions they only partially understand. They are hardly the ideal custodians one would choose to guard the leashed terrors of the universe. But in their resolute imperfection, they at least mirror their creators. I do not believe the Eridians intended the Guardians to be their heirs. Though they are technological marvels, they were held back from true emergence, kept in the dark to be of greater use. I wonder if they resent their creators for it. Even the sharpest knife is still a simple tool. The vaults operate as self-contained prisons. The Guardians have no need to serve as jailkeepers, only as sentinels at the walls. Why then bring them so close to consciousness? What purpose has a thinking spear? As the Siren Sisterhood, we were the keepers of many answers, but our own nature remained elusive. We never knew our origins nor our purpose. In this way, we are still undeniably mortal. When the Eridians found me, my sisters tried to fight them off, but I stopped them. I saw what lay behind their open hands. I knew that anyone who would ask for my help was already lost. To inherit a siren's gift is also to inherit her curse. This is the choice of a siren presented with death. Pass on the gift and burden someone worthy, or release it and burden an unknown soul who has no idea that the entire universe is about to want them dead. No thread is ever truly cut. It can be tied to another, whether knotted by careful fingers or tangled by chance. Every siren must decide what will happen when the thread reaches its end. Sirens have been hunted for as long as they have existed. Hunted out of fear, out of jealousy, out of misguided greed. The sisterhood was our way of passing down the craft of staying hidden and staying alive when hiding was no longer an option. I have never known a time without my sisters. Even when one passes and a new siren receives her markings, she always finds her way to the sisterhood. It seemed the will of the universe that sirens be together, our lives entwined like an unseen braid. I am a siren. Like the destroyer, my kind has been called by many names. Oracle, angel, witch. Rarely are the names used kindly. I used to hate the ones who feared us, believing them ignorant. I think now, after what I have done, I better understand. The Eridians knew of the flaw in their design. The cost of putting the destroyer in its chains meant that there was no one left to throw away the key. All they could do was disguise it, and so it will forever hang in the sky, a small, cold, tidally locked moon, unremarkable even to the dwellers on the surface of the planet. Not all shared the desperate optimism of the Eridians. There were some who hoped to appease the destroyer and save their own souls by attacking the yet unfinished Pandora. They were met by another of the Eridians' creations, the warrior. Though their coup was obliterated, the warrior now sleeps in its own vault, ready to defend it from any who would further trespass against Pandora. Pandora's upper mantle is made of solid iridium. It is this shell that now holds the destroyer tightly in its bonds. The pressures and energies at work beneath the surface of the planet are titanic in scale. If the cycle is disrupted in any way, it is entirely possible that the iridium will force its way to the surface. I fear such a thing might attract the wrong kind of attention. The momentous task of caging the destroyer was made all the more difficult by its intelligence. It understands the beings it consumes and the cultures it dissolves. To trick such a being required a great sacrifice, a lure. Millions of lives that entered Pandora ahead of its captive, tempting it further inward. I can only hope they were already dead when I closed the gate behind it. The prison known as Pandora is the most incredible cage ever constructed. An unbreakable lock meant to hold an unceasing evil for all eternity. Even for the Eridians, whose reach could pluck stars from across the void, it was the work of centuries. The creation of Pandora took the minds of generations to assemble. It was an impossible task, the scope unthinkable, the cost of failure too great. Still, they worked diligently, even as stars in the sky above them began to wink out. The destroyer is ever hungry. Perhaps that is obvious when regarding a horror that gnaws on the edges of galaxies. But its appetite only grew as it ate the stars, never stopping even to swallow. The Destroyer. A practical name for an incomprehensible evil. Surely it has had millions of names more poetic or subtle. But none of the civilizations who coined them survived to pass them on, or anything else for that matter. Only the Destroyer itself knows for sure how long it has been tearing through the universe, eating its own name. You who hears me, eons after my time, I have set these words down, even as my mind fractures under the weight of what I have done. Find my words and remember their truths in my place, for I am the one who put the Destroyer in its chains. I am the one who murdered the Eridians. I am Myriad.
When I was 16, my parents died, and I buried them at their turd farm. Afterwards, I started thinking, what am I still doing on Pandora? I gotta get off this ass crack. So I stuck onto a merchant ship bound for Promethea. Good thing I was smaller back then, better for sneaking. At the time, no one on Pandora ever thought I'd amount to anything, let alone become a legendary explorer. But, like I always say, heroes come in all shapes and sizes. By now, you've probably noticed that Pandora isn't the friendliest of planets. I'm guessing it's not any safer in your day than it was in mine, so if you see something coming, shoot first. We just call that a Pandoran handshake. Hey, who the hell are you? I'm Typhon Logs. Nice to meet you. Here's a med pack. Yeah, I'm doing an Echo series. Sure, I'll sign an autograph. I remember the day I arrived on Promethea. Those buildings look so tall and majestic. I was so busy sky-gazing that a thief stole the pants right off my keister. Promethea's no Pandora, but a city is still plenty dangerous. I knew this was the sort of place I would either find my destiny or die in a gutter. And thanks to my partner/nemesis, Aslan de Vega, Promethea was almost both. There'd been rumors about the Eridian since the expansion days, but no one had found Bupkis. Those days, Atlas was paying top dollar for artifacts. Well, it wasn't like I could farm turds for a living, so I took up adventuring. Thing is, the gangs were shaking down freelancers. But I said to myself, Typhon, if you don't want to end up back on Pandora, you better put your keys on the line. Aslan de Vega, my partner/nemesis, he talked a big game, but there was a reason why he was down on his luck. He was lazy, but I was hungry to prove myself. Then one time, we were wandering through the Casmarian quarry, and I fell through some brittle rock. Aslan calls down, nice knowing you, De Leon, grabs my stuff and splits. Well, I had to find another way up, and bam, that's when I found the vault. I guess the moral is, sometimes you gotta fall before you make it big. Oh, Darkside, my kind of neighborhood. What a dump! Rats for pillows, rats for dinner. There was a saying, once you go rats, you go straight to the hospital, or to sleep. But Darkside was where I met Aslan de Vega. That bastard tried to kill me plenty of times. But here's the thing, if I hadn't met Aslan, I never would have joined up with Atlas. And if I hadn't joined up with Atlas, I probably would have just ended up back on Pandora, farming turds. Hunting for Eridian crap was dangerous work, so me and Aslan de Vega joined up and agreed to split the loot 50-50. I had a nose for finding alien crap, and Aslan, he could talk his way into all sorts of free equipment. Or he stole it. In the end, Aslan taught me a valuable lesson. The same person watching your back is usually the first person to stab it. That's why I always strap a Verkuvian ham on my back. Hot as a rock. That back ham saved my keister plenty of times. In ham I trust. During my Darkside days, I was always starving. I begged, borrowed, and stole for a bite to eat. Some nights, I was so hungry, I woke up and I was eating my ranch pillow. Anyway, once, I saw some grubby kids fighting over a pickle. I told them a story, and they gave me a bite. And until I found the vault, that was how I put ranch on the table. Telling stories of my adventures on Pandora. How about that? I found the key just sitting there in front of the vault. Good thing I didn't open it myself. I gave the vault key to Atlas, got a boatload of cash, and the rest is history. Anyway, first vault hunter. First time I saw Siren was my trip to Athena's, and she was the queen. See, after I found the vault, Atlas paid me a buttload to lead a peace envoy. Later, I found out those bastards had slipped some spies into the envoy to steal Eridian artifacts. Now, I ain't no monk, but for the record, I didn't steal nothing from Athena's, Typhon's honor. The graveyard, that's where it went down. See, I was admiring the tombs when Siren Queen Dido catches me. You must die, trespasser, she says. Any final requests? So I say, how about one last dance? She narrows her eyes, then nods and takes my hand. I remember her gray hair cut by the moonlight, and how her bony fingers grabbed my tuchus and wouldn't let go. Next thing I knew, she smooches me right on the tomb. Boom, Siren girlfriend. There's no place in the galaxy with more sirens than Athena's. Must be something in their water, or sirens were drawn to the place by some sort of, I don't know, call. I stayed for a few years until Queen Dido passed away. Then some monks in the Order of the Impending Storm took over the joint. One day, some skeezy monk, he pulls me aside and says he'll pay plenty if I bring him another siren. I slap him in the face with my Verkuvian backhand and hopped in my ship. Never came back. The moral of this story is that monks suck. Ah, my old stomping grounds. See that big-ass monster skeleton? I was so busy hunting Eridian crap one day that he almost stomped me into a Pandora pancake. But I dove at the last second, and then I did a triple backflip straight into his mouth, right past the teeth, and shot my way out his sphincter. I smelled like monster ass for weeks, but I'd do it again, and I did. Hey, fellow adventurers, this is Typhon Leon. Some history dweebs paid me a buttload to record an echo series about my adventures, and Typhon needs a new ship. Crash the old one, Angry Saurian Broodmother, Runaway Sandwich, long story. Anywho, I was born to a family of turd farmers. A lot of money in turds those days. Good, dependable fuel turds. That's why I always say, if you step in crap, consider the upside. Pandora's a strange and harsh place. Sometimes, I get the feeling the whole planet is trying to shake us off like a tick-infested skag. But I'll tell you one thing. If I do find the Eridian homeworld someday, I'm gonna finally get some answers. Hey, aliens, I'll say. What's so freaking special about Pandora? My parents' turd farm wasn't far from here. One time skags ate some of our tools, but I hunted those bastards down and licked them good. And only now it occurs to me that that expression might not sound so great. Ah, who cares? I am who I am, and I'm telling you, I licked those skags real good. I thought a city like Promethea would be crammed full of opportunity, but actually it was a tinderbox of violence and greed. Corporations were pulling out, calling the joint a dead end. People were starving, eating stone soup and boiled rats to get by. But somehow, I survived. It was a real wrong place at the right time type of situation. You know, sometimes the trick to being successful is just staying in the game longer than the other guy. Before I found that vault, Atlas was lagging behind the other guys. They'd almost got wiped out during the corporate wars and were looking to rise from the ashes like what's it called? That Firebird. Anyway, Atlas was just throwing explorers at every dig site they could find. Now, I never thought growing up on Pandora would do me a lick of good, but I spent my childhood hunting Eridian ruins, and that gave me the edge. How about that? Pandora's good for something. For a while after I found the vault, Atlas kept me on retainer, which is a fancy corporate word that means we'll pay you to sit around and do bupkis. My contract had something called a non-compete clause, which I didn't read, because who reads contracts anyway? Big mistake. Atlas, they lied to me. Bastards said that they were going to use the vault tech to make Promethea paradise, but all they did was quadruple their standing army and added a new feather in their cap, the Crimson Lance. Those bastards bled the people dry and worked them to the bone. After a while, I said to myself, screw Atlas. I gotta get out of here. I looked all over Promethea, searching for another vault. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't recreate the magic of that first vault. Sometimes in life, you just don't know when you've reached your peak. But I started to wonder whether there were other vaults out there. Wish I could say finding that vault did some good for the people of Promethea, but that ain't true. At first, it sure seemed like it, though. Atlas started building subways and planetary tracks, but when they didn't find another vault, the corporation stopped investing in the planet, and the station after me, but I told them to name it after Aslan de Vega, 'cause I'm no dummy. Who wants their name attached to something people are gonna just piss and crap all over? So then, they tell me they're gonna name the whole city after me to attract investors. Baloney, I say. If you want to attract investors, name it Meridian. Then everyone will think it's got crap tons of Eridian ruins. Dumb bastards get it too. Names are like stories. They can be dangerous in the wrong hands. After I found that first vault, Atlas sent me into every nook and cranny on Promethea. But the truth is, I never found another one. Pretty soon, Atlas started accusing me of holding out on them. But Typhon's honor, there ain't no more vaults on Promethea. Good thing, too. You release a monster in a city, you better have another one to fight it. Saw that in an old documentary from before the expansion. What a flick. I always heard Eden 6 is part of the Paradise system. Well, after Promethea, I came here for a vault hunting gig. Montgomery Jacobs himself hired me. I figured a change of scenery would do me good. Who wouldn't want a little paradise? Ha! I ended up trading city stank for swamp ass. Eden 6 is a lot of things, but it ain't no paradise. That's for sure. What? That's why the Jacobs Corporation settled on Eden 6. And that wood kept them going for 300 years. Ancient for a corporation, you know. Then again, Jacobs stayed out of the whole big war. Kept to themselves. My first day on Eden 6, I was admiring those rail lines when some teenager says, "You the Vault Hunter?" I say, "I might be. Who are you, bub?" He smiles. "Wainwright Jacobs. My daddy's the one who hired you to find our vault. And you don't want to disappoint him. Trust me." Waterfalls. By far my favorite part of Eden 6. One time, I went skinny dipping in that waterfall with Monty Jacobs, his wife Margaret, and some of their friends. Well, next thing we knew, some jabber stole our clothes. So we started walking back to town naked, sharing a flask of bog wine and howling at the moon. All of a sudden, a Saurian steps in our path, but old Monty shoots him dead in the eye. Oh boy, I say. What a shot. But I guess if it took more than one shot, you weren't using a Jacobs. And he says, "Now that's a fine slogan. Mind if I use that?" Not long after I landed, I get an echo from Aslan de Vega, his one echo from prison. Well, he asked me to visit, and to bring him a hunk of Herculean ham for old time's sake. He'd been booked for a conspiracy to steal a vault. Last time I saw old Aslan was on that skywell when he tried to kill me. But I'd stolen the guy's ship, so I figured we were even. Anywho, I went to pay old Aslan a visit. So Aslan makes his escape through the sewer, and I almost catch the bastard. Then he turns into a dead end. This pipe with a big waterfall. End of the line, Aslan, I say. "DeLeon, you know what your problem is?" he shouts back. "You're too nice. Thanks for the ham." Then he jumps into a lake of poop water. Well, I let him go. Life's too short to hold a grudge, you know. Plus, I ain't no fan of poop water. Though it does exfoliate the skin. See, they were keeping old Aslan in solitary confinement. Aslan, he's all chained up. "You bring the ham?" he asks. I nod. So he says, "Thanks, DeLeon." "For what?" I ask. He smiles. Then suddenly the whole prison goes dark. Alarms start screaming, gunfire. Aslan pushes me down, grabs the Herculean ham right off my back and starts running, knocking guards out cold with my ham. Man, is there anything ham can't do? I had some good times in this little hamlet, drinking with Monty and his wife Margaret. Anywho, we have a few drinks, then I say, "Monty, why'd you make me schlep all the way out here?" He leans in and says, "Well, I saw what happened to Promethea when you found that vault, and I figure, if there's a vault here, I want to know about it, so I can keep gutless SOBs like you out of here." The table, it goes real quiet, and then I say, "I'll drink to that." As I'm heading to the estate one day, I hear somebody shooting and cursing. So I go around the corner and find this boy Wainwright, pistol in hand, trying to shoot cans off a fence. I ain't no gunslinger, but the kid, he was a terrible shot, squinting and licking his lips and cursing and saying he'd never be a Jacobs. Then I figure out why. Kid's blind in one eye. So I come up to him and say, "Hey kid, try a shotgun." My first night there, Monty and his wife invite me to a show at their house called Fool's Gold. It's about a king who finds an ancient artifact of power and tries to take over the world. In the end, the kingdom ends up in flames and the king loses his head. Well, I got the impression that it weren't no coincidence Monty wanted me to see that play. And I thought to myself, you better be careful, Typhon. Monty's all right, but a tiger with a smile's still a tiger. Once, I saw a saurian try to mate with a jabber. It started out real sweet, then it ended in a total bloodbath. If that ain't love, I don't know what is. Me and Monty trekked through every swamp and forest on Eden 6, looking for that vault. Sometimes we took a ship, the family jewel. That ship had been in the Jacobs family for generations. And they just kept replacing old parts with new ones. Well, one day, I asked him why they kept calling it the family jewel. And he says, Typhon, it ain't the parts that make the ship, it's the name. Ha! I landed my ship pretty close to this spot for a picnic. Then the saurian broodmother came out of nowhere when I was eating a Rakovian ham sandwich. Well, I dropped the sandwich and ran away. When I came back, my ship was gone. Could have been Aslan. Maybe the ship just sunk into the mud. But I'd like to think there was a saurian broodmother somewhere in my ship, flying around and chowing down on that sandwich. Of course, it's been a decade, so it's probably dead. R.I.P. sandwich. You will be missed. There's something funny about Eden 6. Whole lot of crashed ships, like they were being pulled to the planet. There were Eridian ruins, sure, but most of the artifacts had been picked clean by jabbers or washed away with the rains. After a while, I came to a realization. Typhon, if you don't find the vault soon, your reputation is kaput. Eden 6 wasn't just wood-rich. They had all sorts of minerals and gases bubbling beneath the surface of those swamps. When I asked Monty Jacobs why they'd never been invaded, he said, the way I figure it, a thief won't steal a hunk of gold if there's a turd around it. Smart that, Jacobs. Unless you're a turd thief. Sometimes, when Monty was busy with Jacob's business, his son Wainwright would show me around the planet. That kid, he sure didn't seem like he wanted to be the next CEO. I've met the CEOs of every corporation, and let me tell you, being a CEO is like being in the middle of a saurian orgy. It's all teeth. I'd spent a long time searching for that vault, and turned up nothing. To be honest, I started to think I had lost my spark. Then the day I was set to leave, Monty calls me into his study. Don't feel bad, DeLeon, he says. If there ain't no vault, there ain't no vault. Well, I got that funny feeling, and before I knew it, my legs were taking me out of the room, with Monty Jacobs screaming at me to come back. Biggest dump ever, right there. Thing is, I spent a long time on that pot, thinking about how I couldn't find the vault. It was a real worry-turd situation. Was I losing my touch, past my prime? And then I reached for the toilet paper, but it wasn't on either side of the pot. And then I realized there's one place I hadn't looked. Well, I squeezed out my brown muse and went to confront old Monty. Old Montgomery Jacobs, he catches up to me and demands to know where I was going. So I say, you know where I'm going, Monty. Then I hear the click of a pistol chamber, and he says, Jacobs might have escaped the big war, but the next one is coming. The War of the Vaults. Good thing there's no vault here, huh, DeLeon? I nod slowly. And if the great Typhon DeLeon couldn't find that vault, no point in anyone else looking. He smiles and hands me a solid gold revolver. Pleasure doing business with you, DeLeon. Ah, this spot. This spot right here. This is where I started my midlife crisis. I fought skag packs and played chess with the Spider-Ant Queen. I chased the bubble jump. I sang to the Varkids and danced with the Bullymong on the Vasts. And let me tell you, those Mong have got moves. One night during my midlife crisis, with the light of Elpis shining down on me, I thought of Queen Dido, and I said to myself, what the hell is the point of life anyway? Who cares about the vaults? Then I heard some growling skags, so I threw my backhand at them and started yelling. Vaults, Pandora, loot, adventure. What was the freaking point if I had no one to share it with? Well, after I couldn't find that vault on Eden 6, I figured I'd come back to Pandora and see what had changed over the years. Turns out it was Atlas looking for the vaults. I guess old Montgomery Jacobs was right after all. One day, I come across a big mother of a ship. Well, I took it for a joyride around Delphis and went on a low-grab bender. Eventually, I sober up and head back. Just as I enter orbit, some asshole shoots out my engine and I crash land. I don't know how long I was out, but when I came to, I saw my leg was busted up real good. I remember thinking, it's infected. Stinks, too. Sort of fun to poke, though. Pokey, pokey, pokey. At least I've got company, eh, stink leg? Then I says to myself, talking to a leg, I'm losing my freaking mind. Say, stink leg, you think I'm losing my mind or what? I'm gonna die. Aslan de Vegas shot my ship down. Well, I went and hid in a big old pile of turds. That night, I remember looking up at the stars and wondering, why would the Eridians come to Pandora anyway? They're supposed to be the smartest in the universe. They built the vaults. It don't make no sense. If I make it out of this turd pile alive, I tell myself, I'm gonna find those Eridians and I'm gonna get some answers. The ship was kaput. I think to myself, if I'm gonna die in this desert, then I might as well pour some spaceship fuel on the wound and see what happens. Well, I start screaming. Pretty soon another ship lands, an Atlas ship, and for a second, I was dumb enough to think I'd been saved. Then I see this grinning asshole coming over the dune, and on my turd farmer parents' grave, it was Aslan de Vega, coming to finish me off. After I found the vault, all that fame went to my head. At first I was handing out free pickles to orphans left and right, but soon I was building myself houses and yachts out of Verkuvian ham. Also, I lost a buttload of cash betting at the Rat's track. Pretty soon I was broke. They repossessed my ham yacht. Meanwhile, Atlas was exploring the neighboring asteroids, hoping to strike it rich. That's why I took the Skywell gig. Boy, was that a mistake. The Skywell gig. Skywell 27 was one of the mining sites orbiting Promethea. The word was, some poor schlub had gotten trapped, and he was radioing that there was tons of Eridian ruins all around him. I figured he was lying, so the corporations would actually send a rescue crew instead of just paving over the poor bastard. I'd trust a rabid skag before I trusted a corporation. Unless that skag was running a corporation. Skag CEO. Dunno. It makes me laugh. The whole trap miner thing was a big fat ruse. When I get there, Aslan de Vega calls down and says, that's for stealing my cut of the vault, De Leon. Then he hucks a grenade, collapsing the tunnel I was in. When you're famous, there's always some asshole who'll try to kill you for money. It took me a while, but eventually I found my way to the surface. Aslan was at the bar celebrating my death. I nabbed his geese when he wasn't looking and stole the putz of ship. Ha! Aslan de Vega and his cronies chased me all over Pandora. Why, I hid in every turd pile I could find. But eventually, I realized I couldn't keep running, so I picked a defensible valley, juicy with turds, and decided to make my stand. I found Aslan's ship and flew it back to my parents' turd farm. A fresh start. I had to make an honest living. They taught me how to farm turds, so that's what I did. One day, I look up from a big old juicy turd to see this lady staring at me. Boy, she was a looker. Excuse me, she says. I'm looking for Typhon de Leon. Well, I jump straight out of that turd hole and say, baby, you're looking at him. Say, what's your name? Leda, she says. I'm looking for a guide. And I says, all right, let me just throw this turd in the silo and we'll go. This was the place where I made my stand. I remember the wind in my hair and blood on my hands. I started making rat calls to lure Aslan de Vega's cronies out one by one and smashed them with a big old rock. After a while, it was just me and Aslan. I know you hear, De Leon. End of the line, he says. So I yell at him, you know what your problem is, Aslan? You ain't got no friends. And right as he points his gun at me, boom! Those skags I threw the Verkuvian ham at jumped him. After the skags were done chowing down, I went by to pay my respects. But only the ham remained. Leda was an Atlas researcher whose team had been slaughtered, but that didn't stop her. She needed a local to show her around all the Eridian spots, and I was more than happy to. Leda was way better than Aslan de Vega. For one thing, she didn't sweat so much. Plus, she could read some Eridian. Not much, but enough. There's a lot of treasure in the galaxy, but the rarest loot of all is love. I was sweet on Leda, and she knew it. Together we started looking for clues to the long-lost Eridian homeworld, Necrodefeo. It was her dream to find it, and pretty soon it became my dream too. Necrodefeo. The first time I ever heard the name of the Eridian homeworld was from Lada's own lips. We were driving across the desert in my turd buggy when we came across some ruins. The bots scattered out, chirping and beeping. I keep an eye out for the racks while Leda starts digging in the sand. Then she looks up at the moon and says, Necrodefeo. As if she could already see it. Necrodefeo. That's a funny name. More and more Atlas soldiers kept arriving on Pandora, so I figured it was time to split. Well, me and Leda started making preparations to go to Necrodefeo. Supplies, astrolabes, picked up a few bots in the desert from some traders. Said our goodbyes. I went to old Aslan's grave and took a big old dump on it. The putz. Now I'm just waiting for those history dweebs to send me the moolah for this Echo series, and then we're out of here. History dweebs asked me to leave some words of wisdom before me and Leda head off to look for Necrodefeo. You know, just in case we don't come back. Anywho, here goes. Be nice to people, and never, ever forget your backhand. Got the history dweebs moolah, bought a new ship, and we're all packed. So that's it, folks. Me and Leda are gonna search for the planet Necrodefeo, homeworld of the Eridians. You can try to find me if you like, but be careful. If you follow in the footsteps of giants, sometimes you're gonna step in giant-sized crap. This is Typhon Leon signing off. Hey Leda, have you seen my backhand? Lot of funny stuff on this planet. Get that same feeling I got when I was on Pandora, Promethea, and Eden 6. Leda says the vault planets are all linked somehow. Anywho, doesn't seem to be any other humans on this planet, so I'm gonna go explore naked. I'm free hamming it. Well, we crashed. Ship went blammo. We got guns and gear and backhams to last us a few months, so we should be alright. Stored a few of these historical markers on the ship, and that's a good thing too. It's easy to get lost on this planet. Necrodefeo. That name, it don't make no sense. I mean, what the hell is a feo? Leda says this door leads to the machine, whatever that is. Oh, right, she told me. She thinks this machine is the one that closed the Great Vault. So I says, what's the Great Vault? And she looks at me for a long time. The Great Vault, she says. That's why the Eridians aren't around anymore. Well, we licked that vault monster real good, and it was a tough one. 7 heads. What'll they think of next? And then we go into the vault, and Leda says, Typhon, come here, baby. And I do. And I ain't gonna record what happened next. She stumped me. Leda, she was so happy being here. She just kept running around, reading ruins and slapping my ass. True story. Then we see the vault in the distance. After we beat that monster, we beat the monster, if you know what I'm saying. Then we laid on our backs looking up at all them pretty lights, and Leda says, we have to stay here, Typhon. We can't go back. She said if the corporations found this place, the universe would be kaput. So I says to her, baby, as long as I got you, I got the whole universe. And then we beat the monster again, right in the vault.
right. I send you to death. She will appreciate you.
Hey, another weird alien door. It looks like it takes iridium. Just pay up when you're ready to be annihilated by an exsanguinating monstrosity. Good luck, recruit. Have fun getting drained of blood and/or robot fluids. And don't worry, I'll be safely miles away.
I hear you! Accelerating! I like better dead. Come on, boy.
That's one juicy burger delivered hot and fresh-ish.
Let them hear your rage!
You'll have to move faster than that! Burger delivery! Eat up before it gets cold! Nom down that burger, beloved customer, dude!
Good to see you, my boy.
Great delivery! You make me proud to call you my temporary employee! Screw you, legacy drive-through! Don't let the burgers get cold, my dude! Taking down the competition! Oh man, you're the best! Those burgers were getting cold, and there's nothing more tragic than cold frickin' burgers. Thank you! Head on back to the sign spinner for your payment, okay? Whenever you're around and need work, come talk to this sign spinner. People always want burgers, my dude. Come on, come on! These burgers aren't gonna deliver themselves! Although, that would be amazing! And take down those legacy drive-through signs for bonus time, my dude!